I never thought a routine haul through the desolate roads of Wyoming would end with me questioning my grip on reality. But here I am, alive to tell the story, barely. It was just after midnight when I left Cheyenne with a trailer full of fresh produce. The plan was simple. Drive through the night and make it to Billings by dawn. The roads stretched endlessly, deserted and blanketed in an almost unnatural stillness. The CB radio crackled occasionally, but even the usual chatter of fellow truckers seemed sparse that night. The first oddity hit me about 50 miles in. I spotted a sedan on the side of the road, its hazard lights blinking. A man stood next to it, waving both arms frantically. Normally, I wouldn't stop, company policy forbade it, but something about the look on his face made me ease off the gas and pull over. As I climbed out of the cab, flashlight in hand, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the crisp night air. The man, mid-30s, disheveled, and pale, looked at me with wild, desperate eyes. "Thank God," he stammered. "You gotta help me. She's in the woods." "Who's in the woods?" I asked, already regretting stopping. "My wife," he replied, his voice breaking. "Something took her." I glanced at the dark expanse of trees beyond the road. A faint mist clung to the ground, creeping between the trunks like ghostly fingers. I didn't like this, not one bit, but there was something in the man's voice, raw fear, like he'd seen something no one should. "She ran into the woods," he said, his breath hitching. "We were driving, and this thing darted across the road. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't human. She got out to check, and then she screamed and..." His voice cracked, and he buried his face in his hands. I hesitated. My flashlight beam trembled slightly as I shone it toward the woods. "Listen, buddy, you need to call the cops. I'm just a truck driver." "I did," he snapped, looking up with bloodshot eyes. "They said it would be over an hour before anyone could get here. Please, she's out there alone." I scanned the empty highway. Not a single car had passed since I'd stopped. Against my better judgment, I sighed. "All right, but we stay close to the road. You hear me?" The man nodded vigorously and stumbled toward the edge of the woods. I followed, my boots crunching against the gravel. The moment we stepped into the trees, the air felt different, heavier, quieter, like the world outside had been muted. We called out for his wife, our voices echoing unnaturally through the trees. The mist seemed thicker here, swirling around our legs. My flashlight caught nothing but the skeletal branches and damp earth. And then we heard it, a low, guttural growl from somewhere deep in the woods. It wasn't a coyote. It wasn't a bear. Sounded wrong, like it didn't belong in this world. "What the hell was that?" I whispered, my grip tightening on the flashlight. The man didn't answer. He was staring ahead, his face pale as chalk. "Do you see that?" he asked, his voice barely audible. I followed his gaze and froze. About 50 feet ahead, a pair of eyes glinted in the darkness, amber and inhuman, reflecting my flashlight beam. They blinked once, then twice, before whatever they belonged to stepped into view. It was tall, too tall. Its limbs were long and crooked, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. The thing's skin was pale, almost translucent, and it moved with a jerky, twitching gait. The growl rumbled again, louder this time, vibrating in my chest. "Run," the man whispered, but his legs seemed rooted to the spot. The creature's head snapped toward us, and it let out a sound, a piercing, bone-chilling scream that made my ears ring. That was enough to jolt us into action. We bolted. My boots pounded against the damp forest floor, and the man was right on my heels. Branches clawed at my arms and face as we stumbled through the misty darkness, our breaths ragged and panicked. The creature's screech echoed behind us, followed by the unmistakable sound of something huge crashing through the underbrush. "The highway. Just get back to the highway." My flashlight beam danced wildly as I ran, barely illuminating the ground ahead. The man tripped and went down hard with a grunt. I skidded to a stop, my instincts screaming at me to leave him, but I couldn't. Against every survival instinct, I turned and grabbed his arm, yanking him to his feet. "It's coming!" he gasped. his face smeared with dirt and fear. Then we saw it. The creature emerged from the shadows, its grotesque form fully visible now. Its limbs stretched and cracked as it moved, its amber eyes glowing with predatory hunger. It wasn't running. It didn't need to. It was toying with us, knowing we couldn't escape. We burst through the tree line and onto the shoulder of the highway. My truck was still there, its massive form a beacon of safety. "Get in the cab," I shouted, shoving the man toward the passenger door. I scrambled up the driver's side, flinging the door open and slamming it behind me. The man barely made it in before the thing hit the side of the truck with a bone-rattling thud. The entire rig shook as if we'd been struck by a wrecking ball. The creature was on the windshield now, its face pressed against the glass. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of needle-like teeth, and it let out that unholy scream again. I fumbled with the keys, my hands slick with sweat, and finally jammed them into the ignition. The engine roared to life. "Hold on," I shouted, slamming the truck into gear. The tires screeched as I floored the gas, and the massive vehicle lurched forward. The creature clung to the windshield, its claws scraping against the glass, leaving deep, jagged grooves. I swerved hard, trying to shake it off, but it held on with unnatural strength. Then, with a guttural roar, it leaped from the windshield and landed on the road ahead. It crouched low, its limbs splayed, ready to pounce again. But I wasn't stopping. My foot was a lead weight on the gas pedal as the truck barreled toward it. The impact was sickening. The creature's body crumpled under the weight of the truck, and I felt the wheels bounce as they rolled over it. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I just drove, my heart pounding like a war drum. The man was sobbing in the passenger seat, clutching at the dashboard. What was that?" he choked out. I didn't answer. Couldn't. My mind was racing, replaying the events over and over, trying to make sense of the impossible. All I knew was that I wasn't stopping until we were miles away from that stretch of road. When we finally reached a truck stop, I pulled into the brightly lit parking lot and killed the engine. The man stumbled out of the cab, muttering incoherently, and disappeared into the night. I never saw him again. As for me, I finished the haul to Billings. But that was my last run. I quit the job the next day. Now, every time I drive at night, I catch myself scanning the tree lines, half expecting to see those glowing amber eyes watching me. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can still hear that scream. And every so often, when I'm on an empty highway, I feel like I'm not alone.